Buster, as always, appreciate the time. Great to have you on. Let's start with some positive news. And Luis Arraez being named an MLB All-Star with a fourth different team now. How has he exceeded even your expectations coming into the season? What makes him so special, if you can put it into words?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to point to what he does offensively, the way he's able to go deep into at-bats, rarely strikes out. The defense has been talked about a lot this year with his work that he's done with Wash, and that's been great to watch. But I think as much as anything, as you see, for me, what makes him special is he's the type of player that other players gravitate to, whether it is on the offensive side, defensive side, in the dugout, clubhouse. He's just a very likable guy. And you can see the competition come out in all things he's doing. I think that's what stood out to us this offseason when we were recruiting him to come here, was just the competitor just screamed when it was coming out of him when we were talking to him.
Yeah, he's also such a joy to watch. A lot of fans have fallen in love with Luis Arraez. I think Mike Krukow said on the radio that he's going to cry if he gets traded. For fans who do love to watch him so much, is there any scenario where he would come back next season? Are you having any discussions about that? And I know for a lot of reasons it would make sense to move him in a potential trade, but kind of what are those considerations like?
Yeah, I mean, again, he's a great player. You want great players. You know, right now, as I mentioned before we came on camera, there's a lot of draft discussions right now with the draft coming up in another few days here. But yeah, I think you keep all options on the table, and you make the best decision you can with the information that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, another infielder who's had a very good year, didn't make the All-Star team, Casey Schmidt, but I think he was a candidate. I watched him play third base over the weekend. I had the same thought when I watched him fill in for Luis for a couple of days. Like, he belongs on the dirt very clearly. How much do you think about Casey's future and what you might have to do to find him a spot where he can just be an infielder full time?
Well, I think where my head goes first and foremost is just the job that he's done moving around. You mentioned third, second, even left field. He's held his own. Not an easy thing to do. A guy that's never played out there. So it speaks, one, to me, is the type of teammate he is and wants to contribute any way possible. And he's obviously made some really nice strides offensively this year as well. But yeah, you see him at third. I mean, I heard about it before he got here, just like the type of skill set that he had, the ability to really make the outstanding play like we saw in Colorado. And as much as anything, I think you're seeing a guy that's starting to believe for a while now that he belongs in the big leagues. And sometimes that's more than half the battle, is just believing yourself that you belong to be here and stay here. And no, we're excited about his future.
You know, there's a question I wanted to ask you for a couple of weeks. Last time you met with the media, someone asked you about listening to offers for Logan Webb, and you were just a very quick no. I think devil's advocate from fans, from media would be, you know, you probably are in a spot where you have to consider everything. Why is it a no on Logan in particular?
I just think he sets a tone and an example for us that, you know, we're gonna be in a spot potentially where we, have some younger arms in the coming future. And for a guy like him who's been around and played with some great pitchers and now has himself turned into one, that it's important that there's a standard, and he sets that standard for us.
Mm-hmm. There's been a lot made nationally of the potential of trading the big three who are on some big contracts with this organization. Where do you stand with the potential of moving any of those guys right now?
Well, I mean, I guess, unfortunately, you probably don't like this answer, but I mean, as much as different conversations and media stuff can impact trade outcomes, I'm going to somewhat plead the fifth on that. I will say, unfortunately, where we are with our season and what our record is, that I think we have to be open to some different ideas.
Have you heard more from people this year than last year? Just maybe the position you're in. Last year, it was the last 5-6 days before the deadline where it became clear what you guys were going to do. Are the calls different this year?
Maybe a little bit. I think some of it might be because we made the Devers move when we did last year and was a little bit unorthodox. So I think that might have something to do with it as well. Just teams checking in to see if there is any movement. But again, just year two of this for me, it seems like you get to this week and things are a little bit more slow just because teams are prepping for the draft.